Here's a report called Products by Category Multi-Valued. This is the same basic report that I used in order to demonstrate cascading parameters. But I've modified it to allow the user to select multiple subcategories so that the report can display the products for all selected subcategories. I'll go ahead and preview the report. As you can see, I need to first select a category. So in this case, I'll select Components, and that populates the subcategory list. But notice that because I created the subcategory parameter as multi-valued, you get these checkboxes that I can use in order to select multiple values. So I'll select Change, Cranksets, and Forks. Then I'll view the report, and as you can see, I get the products that are in all three of those categories, or more specifically, they're in any of those three categories. So I also modified the report to include the subcategories so you could see which products were being included. And then I also changed this header here, the expression used to generate the value for that text box, that displays all of the selections. Now there's two steps to creating a multi-valued parameter. The first thing you need to do is create a data set based on ad hoc SQL that contains a where clause with a special syntax. So I'll come over here into Report Data. There are all three of my data sets. There's the one that produces the list of categories, the one for subcategories. But I have to use a special syntax here because I want to retrieve all of the products for all of the subcategories that I selected. So look at that query, and you can see the form of that special syntax within the where clause. So it all has to be delimited by parentheses, and then use this product category ID in, and then put in parentheses this at subcategory ID. This is a special syntax within reporting services, within a report query, that tells it to look at all of the categories, the subcategories that were selected by the user. Okay, so that's the data set that's going to use the multiple values. The other thing I need to do is change the parameter itself for the subcategory. So here I have the general page of the report parameters properties, and notice that I have the Allow Multiple Values option selected. This is what tells reporting services to display that drop-down list with the checkboxes. Now, there may be other things that you'll want to do to modify a report that supports multi-valued parameters in order to take full advantage of the benefits of the technique. But those are not required for the technique to work. But let's take a look at the other changes that I made to the report. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here to this query. So I already talked about how I had to change the where field. But the other thing I did here was I included an inner join on product category so that I could get the name of the subcategory as well, because I wanted to include that within the list of fields returned by the data set. So I'm not just filtering on the subcategory ID, I actually need to get some information from that table. And I'm doing that inner join right there. All right, the other thing I had to do is because I included now two fields with the field name within the two different tables, I'm using aliases here. So the product name as product name and the subcategory name as just subcategory. All right, then as mentioned, I made a couple changes to the report itself. One was to display the subcategory of each product, so I just included that field, and that's just the subcategory field from that data set that I just showed you. But the other change is a bit more interesting, and that's that text box right here. Because what that needs to do is display the selected subcategory. It was just a single subcategory in the old version of the report, but now you have to deal with the potential of multiple values. It may still just be one, but there could be multiple values as well. So if I look at the expression there, I need to do this. I need to join together using that join function, one of the built-in functions within reporting services, and use the subcategory ID labels. And what this does is this creates a string that concatenates together each of the selected labels and separates it by a comma, and a space. Okay, so this is actually a join. It's provided by the Visual Basic language, and there's a number of ways of doing this, but this is definitely the easiest. And that results in that comma-delimited string of values. And it takes care of getting rid of trailing commas and spaces and so forth. So it's a very easy way to handle this kind of situation.